2017, the Libertarian Union was formed. Finally, the average Joe Libertarian could find a thriving community of independent podcasters and content providers, all in one convenient location. At Libertarian Union, we'll always have the latest news, interviews, discussions, and even movie reviews. With hundreds of episodes and more added all the time, you'll always find something fresh at libertarianunion.com.
Hey everyone, it's Daniel and Robert, the Last Nighters, and here we are talking about Mission Impossible, the OG, not the series, but the movie, the original movie from 1996, because this Friday, Mission Impossible Fallout, the 6th in the series, comes out, and we thought we'd ride those coattails, and also harken back to our long ago past, back when we were in our prime, Robert and I, 1996, and talk about Mission Impossible.
What are you talking about? Speak for yourself. I'm only getting better, baby.
That's right. You're aging like a fine wine, or a stinky cheese, if it were.
No, the first thing you said.
So this is the Last Nighters, episode 29. You can find the show notes and more at lastnighters.com/29. Also, the Libertarian Union is a part of what we are a part of, or vice versa, something like that. And that website has been updated. And also, you're now hearing us on the launchpadmedia.com, where they're always throwing new ideas in your direction. They have tons of exclusive content, great shows, just a lot of fun stuff. And that's with put together by Johnny Rocket of Blast Off with Johnny Rocket. So check that out. Check out libertarianunion.com and check out lastnighters.com/29 for show notes and more. Moving on, continuing, let's do the Google description for Mission Impossible, if you choose to accept it, Robert.
Let me check. Yes.
All
it's
right.
questionable. You know, I don't know. Has there ever been a movie where they're just like, nah?
Well, it wouldn't be much of a movie. Similarly, this isn't much of a show. So, you know, that works for us.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. I mean, I haven't had a whole lot of time to ruminate about it since I just ended it, but you know, it's fine. I've seen it before.
Well, yeah. And what are you going to do? Ruminate while we're talking?
Yeah, I'll ruminate while we're talking. I'll just tune you out and think about it.
Normal style, missionary
Exactly.
style for Robert on the Mission Impossible episode.
Missionary Impossible style.
That's good. That's gold, Jerry.
Yeah, baby.
But let's get into it. Mission Impossible, 1996 thriller action film, 1 hour and 50 minutes, which, by the way, Robert discovered that it was longer than he expected because he literally just finished watching it. He hasn't even had time to process his thoughts. So this is going to be raw, people. This is going to be Robert's like visceral response to the content.
It's going to be the hottest of takes.
So hot.
Because it just happened to me. I've just been freshly traumatized, and I haven't had time to process anything.
And it even feels longer than it is. I will throw that out there right now. But let's get into it.
Sure.
All right, so 7.1 on the IMDb, 59% Metacritic, 62% Rotten Tomatoes, yet 88% of the Google users like it. This is Tom Cruise at his Tom Cruisiest. This is like the peak of his powers. So the description is, when U.S. government operative Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise, or as your cousin's wife would call him, Tom Cruise, and his
racist.
She says that literally.
That is exactly how she says that word. So yeah, it's just accuracy. That's all it is.
It's just accuracy. All right, accuracy. Jim Phelps, played by John Voight, go on a covert assignment that takes a disastrous turn. Jim is killed, and Ethan becomes the prime murder suspect. Now a fugitive, Hunt recruits brilliant hacker Marcellus Wallace and Maverick pilot
Mr. Marcellus Wallace.
Franz Krieger, played by Jean Reno, to help him...
The professional,
to help him sneak into a heavily guarded CIA building to retrieve a confidential computer file that will prove his innocence. Came out May 22nd, 1996. Brian De Palma, box office, $450 million. How do you say that? $457 million on a budget of under $60 million. So a pretty decent return for Tom Cruise and Paula Wagner, producers. Your thoughts, Robert?
Well, wait a minute. How does him stealing the knock list prove his innocence? I mean, ultimately it does, but just the act of him stealing it doesn't prove that he's innocent of anything.
No,
capable of, or not innocent of stealing the knock list. I don't know.
Well, he needs the knock list to ferret out the mole, and that
correct.
And thus
he needs it to ultimately prove his innocence.
Yes,
right.
So this is ultimate ends he's seeking here.
Okay, I'll give the Google description a pass. Now this is made by Brian De Palma. who I associate with like 80s movies. So this is maybe towards the tail end of his career, unless he's still working, and I don't know anything about the guy. But I thought he did a pretty good job. This is definitely a more cerebral story than has happened later on in the series. I think they've just gotten more and more outrageous and outlandish with the stunts and whatnots. But
Well,
this movie features
I gotta
some
say,
really
Robert,
good.
there's a lot of stunt.
Oh,
action
really? Are you going to say something?
There's a lot of stunt action going on here, and in my reading, they actually had the
Eh.
action sequences before they had a working script. They were just like, all right, we know we want to have a helicopter go into the channel. We know we want to like blow Tom Cruise's face with this huge fan. Like they knew those major set pieces and the fish tank thing before they even knew the story, which I found interesting.
Fairly arbitrary. Like the fact that John Voight's going to get helicoptered off of a train seemed like he could have gotten off of that train any number of ways. Or why did he have to get off while it was still moving? Why didn't he just have like a parachute? He could just get up on top of the train and let loose a parachute and maybe like fall off the train or something. There's a million and one ways. You could like wrap him in bubble wrap and have him jump off the train. I don't know. There's a million and one ways. But yeah, I don't know. It seemed compared if you compare this movie to later Mission Impossibles, there's far less action and there's far more intrigue and double talk and subterfuge and that sort of thing.
In this one, you mean?
In this one, is compared to like part 2 or part 3 or part 4. I mean, all I remember from part 2 is him like riding a motorcycle that has knobby tires and then smooth tires and then knobby tires and then smooth tires, and then he wheel kicks some guy in the face. And that's the end of the movie.
Well, this is after him doing Cliffhanger, right?
Yeah. At the beginning, he's just doing the cliffhanger where he jumps and without any kind of ropes or anything.
Right,
Just,
and then
just freehanding it.
he parodies that in Austin Powers 2, I believe, which was pretty
Well, this
funny.
is the time of MTV when MTV Movie Awards were really a thing, and they were parodying it with Ben Stiller, and that's a really funny bit. And that was mostly Mission Impossible 2, where Ben Stiller pretends he's Tom Cruise's stunt double. I don't remember that, but that's real cute.
Yeah, I'll try to find that and I'll embed it in our show notes page because I do recall that being quite funny.
Although that is about Mission Impossible 2, but still, it's relevant. We're talking about the whole series for the most part.
Oh yeah,
Well,
definitely.
a little bit, whatever.
We'll touch on each one a little, but we're focused on the OG.
For shizzle.
All right, so I want to throw something out there at you.
Okay.
Before the even title scene, you've got a little like surveillance activity going on, and it's already confusing as fuck, right? There's like a struggle, and there's a woman on a bed, and there's a Russian guy, and they inject him with something, and they're trying to get a name. Meanwhile, the surveillance camera is like panning and moving around like it's being choreographed by a director of photography and not a surveillance camera. So that seemed weird. But were you confused?
I didn't
opening?
notice that.
I was very confused at the very open, and what it really has to do with anything. And then they're like in this like warehouse, and there was this fake hotel room, which makes no sense because wouldn't the guy, if he thinks he's in a hotel room, how did he get there? Like, did he know he wasn't in a hotel, or did they knock him out and then bring him there? That's what I don't get.
Or did they have did they have him have a mask over his face while they were taking him there? Yeah, who knows? I thought the main opening scene was just to establish that Ethan Hunt is really good at wearing a mask, and that, you know, these are the toys that we're gonna be playing with throughout the movie. You know, shortly after that, he gets the bubble gum, and what else did he get any other toys? I forget.
The spy glasses, and they had like little video watches. I mean, a lot of this stuff that they had in there, besides the laughable internet, has come true. You know, like I now have like a little watch that I can, you know, see video on or pictures of my kids, track my steps. You know, I mean, that's
Sure.
bleeding edge back in '96.
You can get fit with one of those, I hear. Yeah, so bleeding edge back then. I mean, that was like, feature sci-fi tech.
Yeah, and the laughable internet. But the whole premise of this is the knock list, which I forget the exact term what that stands for, but it's the aliases and the real names of CIA agents embedded in deep cover in foreign nations, investigating or entrapping people, mostly doing things that shouldn't be illegal. And if discovered, they would be killed. And so this knock list is going to be sold to the highest bidder to ferret out these embedded agents, right? That's pretty much the deal.
Oh, well, one point of clarification is are the Mission Impossible people, are they CIA agents, or do they work for the Mission Impossible force? Or is the Mission Impossible force within the CIA?
I think they're a separate thing, but they could be a unit of the CIA.
because that was not made clear. It seemed to be. It seemed like he worked for Krieger, and Krieger was his boss and whatnot, and they obviously worked in Langley. But then why did they call themselves the Mission Impossible Force? I don't know.
Well, it's IMF,
Okay.
Impossible Missions Force.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway,
Anyway,
so yeah, they go after Max, who's an arms dealer. Who, I guess, when you're just an illegal arms dealer, you're just not selling arms to the right people, I suppose, right?
you mean like ISIS?
You're selling arms across treaties and across borders. That what? I mean, what's the difference between Max and like a representative like Raytheon?
Well, one's more politically connected. That's kind of the difference.
That's the entire difference. The entire difference. So, did I lose you?
I lost you. The entire difference. That was the entire difference. That one is in collusion with government and the other one is antagonistic to government and seeking a list to sell to the highest bidder to get rid of the nuisance that is government infringing on their business.
Right. So, yeah. So let's talk about Max. I mean, she's obviously going to get the knock list and then piecemeal sell it off, right, to different groups that would want to see impossible mission force agents or CIA agents in the field, undercover operatives, exposed or, murdered, killed, or whatever. But it seems to be that she's making a profit and she's doing it as a part of her business, but she's also doing it defensively, right? Because these are the people that are chasing after her to imprison her or hamper her legitimate business of selling arms to people that want to buy them.
Yeah, I'd consider them an active threat to her and her livelihood. So yeah,
Indeed.
She's cleaning house, getting rid of the rats.
Yeah, you got some people coming after you, probably going to act to defend yourself against them. I don't necessarily condone her, actively murdering them, but maybe. I mean, if they're actively trying to lock her in a cage or, well, they're threatening her with her life. So, I mean, the legitimacy of these laws is all just, made up opinions enforced at the barrel of a gun. So, I mean, they talk about the legitimacy of laws and the rule of law as being legitimate. It's really just an opinion with a gun.
Right. And
so
it's used for political aims, of course, right? Like even later on when they want to put leverage against Ethan, they go after his family, his mom and his uncle, and use the drug war as leverage against him.
Yeah, that's right. They do. They have zero scruples when it comes to that. So they're just people acting with power to get what they want. I don't know. What did you think about the movie as a whole? I mean, did you enjoy this movie?
I think that this is a movie that has a very convoluted plot, and some of it is just nonsensical, and so it kind of loses me. But then you've also got some very iconic scenes, like the spider drop scene, where they're in the vault, and he's doing the rappelling down, and the rat interferes, and he almost drops, and they can't make a sound, and they can't increase the temperature, and all of those things. Then he's got that drip of sweat that's gonna hit that pressure sensitive floor, and the dude is sick from being poisoned, and he's puking and having to go to the bathroom, and there's all this tension building in that moment. I felt that was pretty well done. So there's moments that are good, but I think overall it kind of lacks cohesion and simplicity of understanding what's going on.
Yeah, this is a movie I don't think they would make today with the studios trying to make a lot of money internationally. I don't think that a lot of international audiences, especially with translations and whatnots, would have an easy time following the nuances of the plot.
I just don't know. Which was Ving Rhames being super cheesy about whether they can break in to the hack into the CIA.
Yeah, this isn't Ving Rhames' best performance, but it's all good. I thought Tom Cruise did a really good job.
Well, Cruise at his cruisiest, right? Yeah, I mean he does have this tendency to overact, I think.
He gets into it. I'll say that. He
Yeah.
gets into it, and maybe he overacts a little bit, but I'll take an actor that overacts a little bit over an actor that's underacting. Because at least you can see the passion.
Marcellus Wallace is basically just still Marcellus Wallace. This is 2 years later, and he's still doing he goes down in the fifth or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get that Ving Rhames has got a whole lot of range. I mean, maybe I've only seen him, a few times, but if they were just maybe Brian De Palma was just that character you played in Pulp Fiction, just do that.
Just do that. That's your motivation.
Just do that. Or, that's just him doing him.
Well, I think he gets more personality as the series progresses. He gets to venture out and be funnier. He's the jovial teddy bear now, the grizzly bear.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely true. As you develop his character over the series, for sure. I don't know. I haven't really gotten into this series, so this isn't one of my favorite series. I really did enjoy this movie.
Oh, you did?
But
okay.
Oh yeah, I did. I got into it, man. Well into it. Had a good fun time.
All right. Well,
I really enjoyed the the scene between Cruz and Voight, where Voight reveals that he's still alive, and they're sitting in the coffee house, and Hunt is putting it all together. What happened? That was really good.
Yeah, and there were like different scenarios he was playing out. Like, did his wife blow up the car? Well, Voight could have done it. So then he like plays that little vignette because he's like he wants to like Claire, his Voight's wife. He wants to like see that she's innocent, and of course at the end he tests her to find out if she's in on the plot or not by doing the mask thing. Right? That's like his that's like the thing, the trope that they pull out in this movie series.
That's his move.
Yeah,
it's a good move.
If
he could pretend to be someone else
from the neck.
Yeah, I mean, he's, if he stood up, you'd go, wait a minute, Jon Voight's not that tiny. But since he's kind of sitting down, you're like, okay, maybe it's him.
Yeah. Now, before we go down this line of questioning, I just want to go back back to Ving Rhames for just a moment. His computer hacking skills, he is disavowed by the IMF, but he allegedly did this amazing hack. And so Ethan's like, I need this guy. He's the guy I need. In the vault, all the hacking he does is know the guy's password by, I think, watching it on video, watching him type it in or doing a keystroke, like a keystroke recording. That's the extent of his hacking. Yes.
Yeah. That entire scene is more about the tension in Hunt, being suspended there, and less about, Ving Rhames' hacking ability. I mean, if you watch him on the train, when he's jamming the signal of Max's signal, he just types in, send jamming signal.
Right.
It's enter. It's enter. I mean, I could probably do that. I don't know. Maybe.
No, I get it.
You got to love 90s computer stuff. I mean, especially when when Hunt is looking up on the internet. So good.
Oh, yeah. He goes to like max.com or bibleverse.com and it's like, enter this page or enter this value, enter this value, enter this value. And then it's like this super long page load. Or when he gets the email, there's like this animation. Like, it's almost, you've got mail.
Yeah, that's how people used to get mail. There was like almost an animation when people had AOL back in the day.
Yeah, it seems like
not quite
overkill, man.
To that level, but yeah.
Especially at those dial-up speeds back in the day. And, I wanted to ask you, did you notice the brand of computer?
It seemed to be Briefcase brand. No, I mean, it was huge, but no, I didn't.
All right, well, doing my research for the show, apparently it was Apple. And this
was
before they moved to their, sleeker, silver, metallic design. And this was, 1995, 96 when they were shooting and premiering this movie. And I guess they had just posted like a $700 million loss. And so they wanted to get into this blockbuster thing as product placement to like try to rebuild their image.
Well, I don't think it worked in this movie, but it definitely paid off at some point. I mean, probably just making a better product helped pay off. But, this was a start, I suppose.
Well,
although, because I didn't even notice it, I don't know if that's good product placement or bad product placement. I remember the Diet Coke machine in the CIA headquarters. I remember that because it was like right smack dab in the middle of the screen. But I don't remember the Macintosh or the Apple computers.
Yeah, it just looked like a black computer. Could have been anything at that point. But I was surprised that they weren't like super giant, as I think laptops back in the 90s were. So they might have been top at the end, 686 chips, as Luther said.
With the artificial intelligence something or other.
Right, the Cray computer.
Some made up jargon that they made up for that bit. I liked it. It was awesome. It was almost like, we're going to science the science. We're going to tech the tech. I need that sweet 686 chip tech. I loved it. I love that kind of crap. I love it when a writer has to invent some kind of thing that sounds impressive so that it'll pass for, the thing doesn't exist, if it ever will, but as long as it sounds suitably impressive to your audience at the time, you're fine. You're fine with it. You're totally happy. But for an audience, 22 years later, it's kind of funny.
I just don't know. What'd you think of Cruz's magic trick with the disc? I thought that was kind of fun. It was like a fun little moment.
God, I just watched recently a really good sleight of hand bit on the Penn and Teller's Fool Us show, where there was this dude doing this sleight of hand with coins and cards. And I really enjoy good sleight of hand. I mean, he's just like palming it somehow or holding it just out of view or whatever, but it's really skilled kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know if Cruz is like super good at it, but hell, to have a fun little ability that you could use in a movie. It's good stuff, man. I enjoyed it. It was a fun little bit. And I really appreciated the fact that he was just, psychologically messing with the guy, that he actually did have the list all along. That was really fun.
Yeah, kind of did a psych, which I think was a prevalent thing to say at the time. You probably haven't heard that in about 20 years. Psych.
That brings back memories. Good times.
Now, one other thing that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So the team gets killed in Prague, or he thinks everyone gets killed, and then Kittredge, who is the CIA director guy, thinks that because Ethan is the only one still alive, then he must be the one who did it. Then he does the fish tank, blow up thing with the gum to escape, and he goes back to the safe house that they had been using for the operation. Now, call me crazy.
Was it the same place?
Yes, it was the same place. He gets to the safe house, he picks up the chair that Voight had knocked over, he uses the computer that Voight had been using, he sees the Bible, he discovers the Job 3:14 thing.
Right.
And then he looks at the Bible again later and correlates it to the story that Voight had told him about being at the Drake Hotel in Chicago. So it's literally the same safe house.
Well, it seems like Kittredge could have found him at the safe house. Wouldn't he have a list of all the known safe houses?
I think he would know where the operation was going down. So yeah. And then he does the glass, he breaks the bulb to have an early warning that someone's approaching.
Right.
Totally useless, totally ineffective. He's hallucinating that it's Voight and it's Claire, but she...
Well, it's 4 a.m. I mean, he's tired.
Right.
He's just had a very long day.
She totally reaches him before he, then he pulls a gun on her. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you could nitpick this movie, but I appreciated that the writer of this story took the time, it seemed to me, maybe you're right about them just having set pieces and wanting to, and building a story around it. But it sure seemed to me that whoever was writing the story really enjoyed and had fun and played around with the subterfuge and who knows what at what time and does he know I know? And if he knows I know, what do I say? Versus I got to play along like I don't know. So I got to give him some information and act like I don't know. I thought all that stuff was really, really cool. And I think that maybe they discovered, oh, wait, maybe more just action is good. And that makes us more money. And so we'll just do action movies because that plays better overseas. So screw writers. Who cares? I just lament the days of a really good script. I think those days are getting slowly, more and more behind us.
So you missed the loss of good script writing, quality writing?
Yeah. I mean, I've been watching some Billy Wilder movies recently, and that guy could write a script. He had some amazing interactions between characters. The dialogue was great. Just really tight, coherent script. And the way he would set up scenes where for the maximum emotional impact was just fantastic. And you get some of that. There's still, we're still human beings, and you still get, a movie needs to have emotional impact and whatnot. You still get some of it. But in between all that is usually a whole lot of CGI and things exploding. And it's weird for me to complain about that, since a long running joke of me is if there isn't, robots or explosions in the movie, I'm not interested in watching it. But if you could marry the two somehow, maybe that would be the best movie ever. I don't know. Robots exploding and talking and having really good conversations at the same time. Yeah.
The Matrix.
That's why The Matrix is good. Yeah. That's the Terminator series is. Oh, wait, it isn't. Damn it.
Well, T2 is pretty good, and T1's all right.
T2 is almost a masterpiece, and then everything after that is crap on a stick. T1's still pretty good, although it's got some pretty bad stop motion. But what are you gonna do? It was 1982 or something.
Yeah, it's old. It's older than this. By the way, that's another thing I wanted to mention. This movie, the production value did not age very well, in my estimation.
Well, that helicopter crash at the end was pretty rough. That sure seemed like, hey, I got this idea. I want there to be a helicopter blade right up against Tom Cruise's neck. That's going to be a cool trailer shot and a cool ad in a magazine, but it makes super no sense. That train is going so fast. How is that helicopter catching up to that train? How is it able to fly in that tunnel? And then with that oncoming train, other white train, how's that helicopter still in there? And still going that fast, keeping up with that train. And then how is John Voight able to just jump onto that helicopter and climb up onto the helicopter, no problem? I don't know. There's just a whole lot of issues that seemed like, well, okay, this is where it turns into a Hollywood movie.
Right, and then Cruise puts the bubble gum on the helicopter, and the explosion drives him back toward the train so he can, survive, which I don't think he can really plan that. I mean... All right, I'm going to blow up the helicopter. No, that's when
it was cartoon. That was the cartoon moment.
Here's the plan. I'm going to blow it up. I'm going to use the force of the explosion to propel me back to the train.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. So the production value didn't age very well, but the concepts, I feel you could make the argument that they're speaking to today, like with Trump and the deep state and all that activity. Because there is a speech near the end where I think it's the over the coffee that you were talking about with Voight revealing that he's still alive, where he says, And I think he's talking about Kittrick. He's trying to pin it on Kittrick, right? He's saying, hey, man, the Cold War's over. The president, he thinks he's running things on his own now. We're obsolete. We're left out to rot. And so we need to manufacture an enemy or come up with a reason to maintain our position. It's the bureaucratic method, right? You can't solve the problem. You got to continue the problem. And then he even went into the griping about how they're underpaid and underappreciated, like thankless and underpaid servants of the people to an unappreciative public. Did you get that kind of from his little speech where he's trying to come up with motivation for why Kittrick's the bad guy?
Yeah, you get that he was actually talking about himself, but he's trying to project that onto Kittrick, since he's trying to pretend that Kittrick is the bad guy when it's actually him that's doing whatever. Yeah, it was good. I liked it. I mean, that's what people like the CIA do in association with the arms contractors and whatnots. They it's no surprise that like Raytheon stock like jumped up really high at the start of the Iraq War, and all the defense contractor stocks. I mean, they need constant conflict to justify their arms purchases, and the CIA, that's basically what they do around the world, is they look after whatever interests of people that will work with them to get whatever they want, whether that's a war or who knows, whatever it is they're asked to do these days. I don't know. Do they ask questions or do they just do the mission? I get the impression that they just do the mission.
Yeah, I don't really know, but this was also an interesting time historically, like when this movie came out, because the Cold War had just ended, the Soviet Union had just collapsed, and it was really before a lot of the terrorism boogeyman stuff was going on. I mean, there was the what was that, 1994, where the van blew
Trade
up.
Center, yeah. Not the Trade Center bombing, but the Oklahoma City.
Well, there was that also, but then I think there was the Trade Center in the parking garage where the van blew up.
Yeah, the first Trade Center bombing, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that was, a few years right prior to this movie being made. But that still wasn't there wasn't the Osama bin Laden stuff, and there wasn't the ISIS stuff or any of that. There was just, hey, the big boogeyman that we've had in the Cold War is now gone, and we're sort of flailing out here. Like, what do we do? Like, why do they still have all of these agents embedded in all of these countries, That war's over, man.
Yeah. You got to keep the if you got CIA agents that are true believers, I assume you would need some kind of an enemy to keep them on board also. Or at some point they start asking themselves, why am I here? What am I doing? I assume that was pretty easy during the Cold War. But when you don't have a direct threat that has been ginned up, then yeah, you get people doing stuff like this, I suppose, or at least questioning, what are we doing? Maybe I should start looking out for myself. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and it just goes to show us that, and granted it's a movie, but people do things that seek their interest. And it doesn't go away when they're quote-unquote public servants, right? They're still doing things that will benefit them directly. They need to justify to their higher-ups or to their budget meetings or whatever, like their reason for continuing to exist. Or, well, even in addition to increased budgets, staff, and power. It's the bureaucratic way.
Certainly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to grow your budget every year. And then if you got to make some stuff up, or, if you don't actually have work, you have to find work. And sometimes finding work involves creating work. So bad things happen. Bad people do bad stuff. I mean, you got trained killers running around trying to find conflict. If they can't find it, they create conflict. So, lo and behold, we found conflict. Imagine that.
Indeed,
so it justifies their job as, well, now I got to fight these people. I mean, how many times? I mean, weren't the Mujahideen, on the side of the CIA? They were like, well, we're going to train up these Mujahideen in Afghanistan to give Russia, a new Vietnam. I mean, that's what the Grand Chessboard said, right?
Yeah, it's the big new Brzezinski. Yeah, bog them down, mire them down, expend the Great Bear's resources.
Right. So, and then there's no way that could ever come back to haunt you. It's all good. Everything's cool. I don't know what you're whining about, Daniel. Everything's fine.
Everything is fine. All right, well, this show will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Not really. We've got a little bit more time. Do you have any other ideas you want to explore before we get into our final summary and review?
Why doesn't the professional pull Tom Cruise up when he's hanging there for like 5 minutes doing the little flaily arm thing? And then why can Tom Cruise race up sometimes, and then other times it's like really hard to hold him up?
They're just creating the tension, baby. It's all in the hips.
Yeah, but it made no sense. It made zero sense. I mean, I understand they're just trying to make tension, but if it doesn't make sense, then you go, well, how? And then it just ruins it for me. It's still a good scene. Don't get me wrong, but
And it is
Anyway,
iconic. Like that's the one scene that everyone remembers from this movie is that vault.
for sure.
And
Yeah.
I think that they pretty much replayed that scene in Ocean's 11, right? I mean, it's like almost a ripoff of that scene.
Well, they are breaking into like a bank vault, but it's not a bank vault. It's in a casino.
Right. But,
Yeah.
it's the pressure sensitive. You can't touch the floor. I don't remember if there's
Oh,
laser
right.
beams and stuff, but, and they had little Chinese acrobat guy.
Sure. Yeah. Grease Man.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And that's another fun movie, Ocean's 11.
Yeah, it's just a ton of fun. Good, really good writing. Just a lot of good script work. Fun premise. Robbing people. It's always a good time.
Yeah, Andy Garcia. Actually, Andy Garcia was kind of bad in that one. He was a little bit too sleazy. He was like trying too hard to be the villain,
Well, aren't they just robbing like an evil capitalist in that movie?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Good, get them all.
Yeah. Expropriate that man.
That's not his money. He didn't earn it. Give it back to the workers.
Yeah, exactly.
And by workers, I mean us who are stealing it.
You see those coats over there? Go take them.
That's right. They're just there. It's not like anybody needs an incentive to make more coats. There's enough coats for everybody.
And of course, someone will make a coat factory and improve upon it if their coats just keep getting stolen.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, your coats will just keep getting stolen. I mean, there's no profit involved, so you're just losing your shirt.
The greater good.
Just keep doing that. Why wouldn't you?
If you don't like it, leave.
Daniel.
Social contract, Robert. The social contract.
Yeah, you're good at saying words.
All right, well, let's get into the final summary and review.
Okay, do it.
All right, so I pretty much shot my load earlier saying that I found this movie to be rather convoluted and obviously a set of action pieces where they tried to build a story around it. There was some good tension moments, which I appreciated. The internet was laughable. The skill set required from Ving Rhames was laughable. And yet the abilities of the helicopter pilot were amazing. Like, it seems ridiculous, like we were talking about how he could fly into this tunnel. And you would think that would be like a difficult thing to do and he'd be like barely able to do it. But in one of the moments, he uses the blades to try to chop up Tom Cruise while he's still flying the thing until he like hits the tail rotor on the ceiling, which doesn't destroy the helicopter, by the way. He's just like bump, bump, bump. Oh, I better stop trying to saw blade Tom Cruise in half. But anyway, overall, it is entertaining if you sort of don't think too hard about the plot. And, the Bible thing, I still don't understand, like, how that connection meant anything to him. He understood that it was a Bible verse and not Job 3:14, but I don't know how that really helps him. Maybe you can get into that in your final summary review. So overall, half decent for the time. It spawned a bunch of sequels that I think improved over time in their appeal to a wider audience, like you were saying. The international audience, bigger explosions, and Tom Cruise is famous for being a participant in most of his stunt work, which I got to give him credit for that. And he's like Dick Clark, man. He doesn't age. The guy looks the same now, which is pretty amazing. But I'm going to go with a 6.5 on this Mission Impossible. And do check out the new one coming out on Friday, Mission Impossible Fallout. Robert, your turn.
All right. Well, I liked the movie a little bit better than Daniel liked it. I didn't have as much of a problem with the story. I thought this movie was just a good, fun time. The issue with the Bible and the kind of convenience of him kind of looking up and going, oh, the Bible, John 3:14. I wonder. I didn't mind that at all. The fact that kind of led him to finding this Max person and like figuring out the email address to send it to. I didn't like that so much, but I definitely seemed like that there were a bunch of set pieces that the movie wanted to do, especially the helicopter thing at the end, which I did not enjoy. But I really did enjoy the true, honest tension scenes and the subterfuge scenes, and the idea that Hunt is a really smart guy and he has to work hard to get what he wants and to figure things out, and he does it in an interesting way. And he's got this talent of impersonating people and wearing masks and making them look exactly like that person. And that he didn't know about Claire, and he had to figure out Claire, but he knew everything else out. And the fact that both Voight and Hunt are not dummies. They're both really smart people, and they're playing this really high stakes level of 4D chess. And that, if you can pull it off in a script, is fantastic. I think it played really well. Maybe if you're not watching it super close, or maybe it didn't work for you, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too enamored with it. Maybe I'm not really thinking about the flaws because I just got done watching it. but I thought everybody did a really good job. At least Cruise, I really appreciated his performance in this film, and it's amazing that he's still doing it 22 years later, and the fact that he's still doing his stunts. And maybe he's just a kid that doesn't want to grow up, and he's just doing a great job and wants to run and play and do all the fun things. And bless his heart, he's doing it. I mean, maybe it's getting a little creepy now that he's like getting old, and his co-stars are still like in their 20s and 30s. But yeah, more power to him. Hopefully I'll be able to do that at his age. That'd be great. But yeah, I'm going to give this movie a 7.2. It's not, super upper echelon. It hasn't aged super well, but it's really solid. And I really had a good time with it. Now, I might say that this is my favorite of the entire series. I've watched them all at various times and, in various settings. And I have to say that I hated the hell out of Ghost Protocol. I know that that's somebody's favorite, probably Mission Impossible movie. It's the one that Brad Bird did. I don't know. Brad Bird's famous for doing The Incredibles, so he knows what he's doing. I don't know why that movie I just hated so much, but oh well. This movie was actually pretty good. So check it out if you haven't, or hopefully you did and you enjoyed this one, or you hated it, and maybe you agree more with Daniel. Either way, I mean, Daniel didn't hate it. He thought it was okay. Anyway, that'll do it for me.
All right, so my number was 6.5, and remind me, what was yours?
72, buddy.
7.2. All right. So not that big of a spread, actually. But
yeah, no, I couldn't go higher than that. I mean, it's not an 8. Maybe back in the day it was an 8. Maybe in 1996 it was an 8 or an 8.2. But the production quality has aged a bit, like you said.
There wasn't a whole lot to really chew on, in this movie.
No, I don't think it asked a lot of interesting questions. It didn't really bring up a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, it was, we could talk about how does the legitimacy of like nation states having like these secret agents that they send into other nation states and operate outside the laws of those nation states, but it's all illegitimate. So there's not a really interesting question there, I don't think.
Right. In our ideal society, it wouldn't. This story wouldn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, these people just wouldn't have the incentive to do these things.
Indeed, sir.
Poor Emilio.
I like
cutting
him.
room floor. He gets a bit part, gets murdered. Well, his foam head got stuffed up against the thing.
Now, why did the elevator have the little spiky things that like propped down when somebody's head is about to approach them? Was that like a booby trap, or was that supposed to be like, this is how elevators operate? They've got these crazy spikes that lay flat until something gets close and then they pop down.
Yeah, that was the old murder model elevator that was installed by the elevator murder company. That makes no sense. It really doesn't. Unless you were saying that, John Voight somehow had installed murder prongs and knew that he was going to be sitting on top of the elevator instead of off to the side.
Which was the plan.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe he had a backup plan, that if he couldn't murder Emilio there, he was going to murder him, at some other point. I don't know.
Right. And Emilio was still like in a crouch position. Wouldn't you lay flat if you knew that the elevator was going up, up, up? Be like, all right.
If you saw prongs at the top, he could probably have laid off to the side and like avoided the prongs, and the prongs would have plunged into the metal, and then he probably would have survived.
Yeah, it's another nonsense.
It's kind of like the old running away from the falling thing, and you run straight away instead of off to the side where it falls. It's just dumb Hollywood thing.
Yeah, so that must have been one of the things that they knew they wanted to have, whether it made sense or not. Like, all right, we got to have this elevator scene where these spikes pop down and it spears his head.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
I can appreciate it. You got an idea for a scene you want to do, and then you can wrap a story around it. I mean, to be honest, some of those details aren't really super important. The whole point of the story, I suppose, is Ethan Hunt, clearing his name, I suppose. So as long as you got that, the details of exactly how it all happens, or fill in the blank, what do you want to do in terms of like action scenes or stunt scenes or set scenes or whatever.
Right. Okay. Now, the other thing that really bothered me, now, of course, we're talking about the fucking movie, but
Daniel,
when Galotzin was getting murdered through the fence, through the gate,
yeah,
the woman who was tracking him or watching him sees that he's being stabbed. Why does she get within knifing range of this murderer who's on the other side of the gate?
Well, she knew that there was a guy who was stabbing people, and she thought that it was cool, and she's like, well, I got to get in on this stabbing action. So I'm going to walk right up to the stabber and present my belly to him, for convenience sake. I thought that was really considerate of her.
Right. And then if there was another IMF team there, which Ethan discovered, and then when he's talking to Kittredge in the fishbowl, they were all there. Why did
Yeah.
they not intervene in, the murdering that was happening here? And wouldn't they have seen that it's not Tom Cruise doing the murdering?
Yeah, you'd see, yeah, it sure seemed convenient that the other IMF team was, I mean, John Voight, he must have been like had this all super planned out. And it's not clear to me why he needed to murder everybody and then why he didn't murder Ethan. I'm not really clear on that. What was his goal and what did he want? I mean, he wanted the money, he wanted the knock list, but he didn't know that it was a fake knock list. So he was going to murder, he's going to have the professional murder the guy and take the disc and then sell it to the girl. But why did he have to murder his whole team and pretend to be murdered himself?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense,
Okay.
right? And then pinning it on Ethan doesn't make sense either because the other IMF agents were there and they saw that Ethan was running around trying to save people.
Yeah.
They saw him not being the murderer.
Right. Yeah, they did see him not being the murderer. I don't know, man. Yeah, I guess now that you make me think about the plot, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, why did John Voight have to murder the whole team? And then why not murder Ethan? I don't know.
And why murder?
It seemed like he got what he wanted, right?
Right, yeah.
He got the disc, and then he sold it to Max, and then Max gave him the money, or was going to give him the money as soon as the disc came up clean or whatever. So why couldn't he have just taken it from... I mean, I could see killing the guy with the disc, even though you probably don't have to. You could just knock him out and take it or whatever. But...
Well, he was stealing it to give it to someone, right?
Was he?
Wasn't he?
He was going to go give it to the stabber guy?
Well, he was going to do something with it.
Yeah, I wasn't clear on that, what was happening. They were in the computer room. They went down the elevator. They were in the computer room. They set the eyeglasses to look at the screen.
To see him in the act of being at a terminal.
At a terminal and pulling a disc out and putting it in his pocket.
It's pretty
damning. They were just like, yeah, he's got it.
It's pretty damning as evidence there.
Well, he's got a disc and he's putting it in his pocket, Daniel. Of course it's the knock list. All right? Don't question him.
Now, the internet makes this all obsolete, by the way.
Oh, yeah. It's all good times. So then he's just kind of hanging out, having a smoke outside. And then he walks down the little street thing.
To the stabbing area.
And then, he walks up to the gate and he gets stabbed.
Presumably walking up to the gate to give the disc to the guy on the other side of the gate.
Yeah, maybe.
So why be stabbed?
Yeah, why be stabbed? And why kill all the other agents? But only one of the teams, not the other team. And not Ethan, just everybody else. Except for your wife, who's in on it, of course.
Big reveal at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you care to revise your statement or your score?
Well, no, now you're just making me question the whole plot, Daniel.
You needed time to
I was just along for this fun ride, and now you're making me think it's not a good movie.
It's still fun.
I'll leave my score as it is. It's fine. It's still a fun movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense as to why things happened or why they needed to happen. Because, Voight never explains why he wanted to kill everybody, and Ethan never bothers to ask him. I mean, he has two face-to-faces with him, and he's never like, oh, by the way, why did you kill everybody? I mean, the one face-to-face he couldn't, because he was still pretending that he didn't know it was him. But the second time in the train, he could have said, so why'd you kill everybody? I don't know.
Yeah, or even in that first sit-down, he could have been like, okay, if Kittrix is the guy, why is he killing people?
Yeah, he could have played it like that. Because these people are, they're IMF agents, right? If they're ever killed, it's completely disavowed. We don't know these people. We don't know who they are. They're just some tourist who got killed in Prague or whatever.
Yeah,
it's never it's not like you're starting a war and creating an enemy, right? I mean, internally, you can be like, ooh, we got killed by a bunch of people and we're going to go after them and whatnot. But you can't necessarily accelerate that into a war. Not like when, there was that one killing of, who was it, a journalist or was it some CIA agent or some secret agent in London recently? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm vaguely familiar with it, like a poisoning or something.
Yeah, it was poisoning. It made some headlines, basically because, everybody's super anti-Russia right now, and I think it was insinuated that it was Russia that killed somebody. And they probably did. I mean, who knows? Governments kill people all the time.
It's what they're best at.
They're really good at it, Daniel. If they're good at anything, they're good at robbing and killing. Pick a skill, I guess, develop it, put your level up points into something. But in this case, in the movie, it's not, all their activities are covered up. So when Ethan saves the day and whatever, all they said in the news was, a helicopter lost whatever and crashed in a tunnel. It's not exploited to be used as, excuse to ramp up some kind of activity and to justify budgets and whatnot. I mean, internally it probably is, of course, but not externally.
I think you make this movie today and the helicopter is a terrorist attack on the train.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Terrorists attacked a plane today, flew a helicopter into a train.
In a tunnel, which they shouldn't be able to fly in.
Yeah. I wonder if any helicopter pilots were just laughing during that whole scene. Like, you could never, or yeah, I could see you doing that. I don't even know if it's possible. Is there enough lift for a helicopter? Is there enough air flow, for it to do that in that enclosed area? And then to be operating at that kind of speed? I don't know what turbulence, what kind of airflows you need to operate a helicopter at those speeds. So I don't know if there's enough of that, volume of air in that kind of space. I don't know.
Right. And then the helicopter's chasing them, right? And Ethan blows it up, blows himself to the train. And then as it's crashing, it's still maintaining speed apparently, and then the train is stopping. Why did the train stop? Because the helicopter blew up behind them. You would think that they would want to get the train away from the explosion. But they had to have the blade almost get Ethan when the train finally stopped.
Yeah, they needed that trailer moment. They needed the shot that was in the director's head that he's like, oh yeah, that would be cool. I totally want that shot. Because it makes zero sense. The helicopter is crashing at the same speed, which it was flying, which the train, which is moving super fast, it's like a super bullet train. And then, yeah, the train all of a sudden stops right when the helicopter starts crashing, and they stop at the exact same rate at which the helicopter loses speed. Makes no sense.
Physics, baby.
Yeah, physics.
What are you?
Physics, schmizzics.
You anti-science? Climate change denier?
Listen, science isn't cool, okay? And they're in the cool business. And the cool business is a helicopter exploding and then the rotors of the helicopter coming up against Tom Cruise's throat. That is cool. I bet you that scene in the trailer made them about $12 million. In fact, that is actually really fucking cool.
I gotta see this.
I gotta see Tom Cruise almost get decapitated. I'm in. I'm buying my ticket.
All right. Touche. Well played, sir.
All
right. Well, I need to wind this down, so I appreciate you joining me. And let's do the Wild Wild Country with Tony Rockamora of Don't Waste Your Hate for episode 3. I think we're going to record that tomorrow, and it should come out on Sunday. So people can find that at libertyweekly.net/WWC. And also check out this Friday my appearance with Johnny Rocket on Blast Off with Johnny Rocket. And that'll come out Friday, July 27th, where we're doing an interview, hour and a half, lots of fun with him and his co-host, Raylene Lightheart. And that can be found at thelaunchpadmedia.com.
Ooh, very nice.
Indeed, sir. Well, thanks again. And all right, fair enough. Well, I think that's going to do it for us on The Last Nighters. And remember, you can find us at lastnighters.com/29 for the show notes and more. And you can also find us on the Launchpad Media, where they're always throwing new ideas in your direction. Appreciate you guys joining us for the show. And come back next week where we're going to talk about...
Daniel, are we doing it? Which one? What are we doing?
I forget what we landed on. What did we even consider? What were we considering?
Well, it was between Detroit. I suggested Detroit, and then you were suggesting Hunger Games.
That is an interesting question. I don't actually know if I have Detroit available to me.
Well, then, that kind of narrows it down, doesn't it?
I think it does. So Hunger Games next week. I think we're going to focus on the first one, but we'll talk about the series in general. So Hunger Games next week, and I've got a really good article put together by a friend of mine who's going to be posting for the site a little bit, some movie review type stuff. So look for that when we do the Hunger Games on the next episode. And I appreciate you guys joining us, and I'll say goodnight from last night.